So here is an interesting demonstration because this is an accelerator, and this is a piece of software which is essentially an add-in solution from Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Microsoft Dynamics 365. So Microsoft supplies this to various industries, these types of accelerators, and they're pre-configured environments that are free for the most part. This one is free as well. Right now I have access for 24 hours and it's completely read-only, but you can obtain the actual solution from Microsoft and it'll work as if it was yours in any Microsoft Dynamics 365 instance that you end up subscribing to. So I'm just going to go through this really quickly. Essentially, I'm going to click continue, but what you see here is, first of all, a dashboard, but on the left, you're going to see a highly customized set of what we call entities, which are different types of information that Microsoft has created and delivered to the healthcare industry as a sort of gift. So I can just tell you that there's a lot of customization going on here, and that to build all of this would be a substantial project. So this accelerator is truly an accelerator. It gets you going where you need to go. And the thing is it's probably much more complicated than most people would need, but it can always be simplified and it can be modified. So I'm going to go through it fairly quickly so that we don't spend too much time. But so the idea is that this is a dashboard. And when you have a lot of different types of information in a system like this, dashboards are extremely useful because dashboards allow you to abstract the information you care about on the left from all these different types of entities and information and put them in front of your eyes in the context that you want to see them. So anybody can create a dashboard. I can create any brand new dashboard that I want to. It could be my own, and it could just take pieces of this information and put it in front of me. And this particular one is called the Care Coordinator Dashboard. So we have a list of what are probably patients here, and then we have active care plan activities, and then we have appointments over on the right. We have a timeline which doesn't have any data in it because it's just test data. But the idea is that that's what a dashboard is designed to do. And this is just a quick example. The best thing that we can do so you understand what the full measure of this system is just to go down the list here and understand what these entities mean. And we'll go through them pretty quickly. So people, pretty self-explanatory. There's going to be just people. And here's a medical record number, which would imply that these are patients. And then you see a list here that says active patients. But there might be active practitioners. So you see these are people who are practitioners in your system, healthcare providers, and they have addresses and so forth, just like patients do, but they are not patients. They're practitioners, and here is the patient view. So this is how you would actually configure the system, because you would share essentially the data set. People are people after all, and they're just different types of people. So in the perspective of this, these are patients divided and also practitioners. So that's the idea there. And if I open one up, I could just open up a patient and just take a quick look at a form for a patient. You can see here that it's heavily customized around the medical industry. So you've got like their primary practitioner. So this is Chastity and Zach, the contact, which is a patient, and their primary practitioner is Marlon Merkwin. And of course, there's patient relationships, which means they could have other relationships with other people, which may be other practitioners or just maybe other patients, could be anybody. And then you can see here we have actually patient details, some of which are conditions. So these are the actual conditions. You can see this is all customized. You could add conditions here. I don't think I can because it says read only. As you can see, this is just a test. But I could just go ahead and add conditions. And then you have these neat little icons over here, which is something quite unusual in Microsoft Dynamics, actually, to have such a customization like this. But if I click on the medications, these are the medications this person is taking. I've got recent appointments. This is like a very useful little section of information here. He's got recent procedures, and I've allergies. So in this one section of patient details, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sets of information related to the patient, which is quite robust, actually, and fairly easy to use. And of course, we have patient interaction. So you can see most of these are appointments. And of course, if I double click one, I would open it up. But we're going to be looking at appointments as we go down, through activities. And so we'll run across appointments in some future date, I'm sure. So here we have, sort of a relationship health. And I just want to explain what this actually is. So this is an AI assistant, and this is something that is added not just to the healthcare industry, but to most dynamics. What it's supposed to do eventually is supposed to give you some suggestions. So based on other information in the system, it's supposed to use its artificial intelligence to give you some suggestions. Maybe it could be for practitioners, or it could be for some medications or something like that. Okay, so that's people. Organizations. Organizations are, for the most part, going to be probably practitioners, but let's take a look. Active accounts. So you can see here, this is, this is endoscopy, surgery center, eye centers, and different kinds of providers, as you can see, centers actually for the most part. Now they're called accounts, but in Microsoft Dynamics it can be essentially any organization. Just like you saw how people was a very broad term that could have different types of people, like practitioners and patients. Same thing with organizations. They could be attorneys, they could be healthcare providers, it could be just about anything, doctors' offices. Okay, let's look at devices. So devices, this is something very specialized. It does not exist in Microsoft Dynamics 365 by default. And Microsoft has created this, put a little icon on it. And as you can see, these are obviously devices that are related to health. There's a lot going on here. As you can see, we got manufacturers, we got the type, the jurisdiction, lot number, all kinds of information. But what is interesting is that they are related. So a device can be related to both a patient and a location. So you might consider this in your mind to be a prescribed device, right? So this is a bile collection bag, obviously by the surgery center for the patient Christopher Hibbard, right? And so I'll head back. Locations. So locations is in this system another type of organization, as you can see, but it might be a location specific. So let's take a quick look at it. And as we can see here, it's got a managing organization above it. So as you can see, this is the Surgery Institute. If I click on the Surgery Institute and I click on related, I probably will find a list of locations, and that would be the different locations. So that's a very typical relationship that you find in Microsoft Dynamics, where there's a one-to-many, so to speak. And so as you can see, there's a lot going on with this particular Surgery Institute, a lot happening here. But somewhere under here, I think we would find locations, and there they are. So if I click locations, you can see there's just one, but there could be any number of locations for this particular Surgery Institute. So that's the idea of a location. It's a many-to-one relationship to organization, probably. We just demonstrated that. Healthcare services. So this is really interesting because if you're doing referrals, you would, in fact, just build yourself a list of healthcare services, and you would refer someone specifically, to a provider for a specific service. Right now, there aren't any in the system. Again, this is just a test system. I don't even have permission to create one, but you can just be rest assured that you can see the fields that you would be using, and you would just create as many services as you needed to. Care plans is interesting. So care plans, if we open one up, we can see that there is several relationships in here that are really important. So we've got the patient, and then we've got an encounter. So there's a care plan reference. So we've got a patient encounter. We also have care plan activities. So you can see here, if I click here, similar to what we saw before, there's care plan goals. We don't have any data in there right now. And there's care plan addresses. So there's related information here with respect to care plans. There's a timeline. Again, this is just like everything else. I don't know if I have permission. It doesn't look like I do, so I can't create one. But I would just, instead of create an activity, then that would just appear on the timeline for the care plan. It would probably appear over here as well. I can't create one, but that's how it would be. Okay, so it gets a little bit more complicated. We're talking about episodes of care and encounters and things like that. As we go down, we'll probably see encounters down here and episodes of care, and we'll be able to understand it a little bit better. Allergy intolerances. This is pretty easy to understand. Here you have a specific patient that has a code, and there's unable to assess risk. That's the criticality. The type is allergy. Verification status refuted. So you can see here this is highly technical to the healthcare industry, and this is a specific allergy intolerance for a specific patient. Clinical impression problems. We don't know what this is, but we can see this problem type, allergy intolerance, clinical impression, and created on. It's not something that we can create, but it's just part of the clinical aspects of this, and I'm sure it has, in the healthcare industry, it has a great deal of meaning. Right now, there's just no data in it. Risk assessments. Looks like there's plenty of risk assessments. So this is something, this is basically a practitioner establishing that there's a risk. Here's the condition. It's as the result of an encounter, a patient encounter. There's the patient, and the performer type is the practitioner. And here is in fact, the practitioner. And it goes down, and there's, codable concept. There's a risk assessment number. And, this is obviously highly customized for the healthcare industry. And if you're in the healthcare industry, this might resonate very much well with you. I can't change any of this data, but you can see here there's a device. So when you look at these devices, I could log sort of a risk assessment against a particular device if I needed to. We'll go down to observations. This is in the diagnostics section. So this is clearly an observation at a specific location during an episode of care with a start and a date time, an issued date. There's a quantity value if that is relevant. There's the patient, and then there's the device. So this is an observation. This could be a medical observation, which is a value, a quantity value of 26, which means something statistically with respect to the diagnostic implant that this person had. So this is really data-driven, and probably observations is something that would be fed into the system, but this is where it would land. If you had some kind of medical monitoring system, this is where it would land, and you'd be able to relate this to an episode of care, to a specific device. There's a device over here, there's a device over here, so maybe there's even more complexity. Okay, specimens. Let's take a quick look at specimens. So specimens, in the healthcare industry is obviously something very specific. What it is, though, is it's related very much to other things. So you can see here there's specimen containers, procedure of specimen equipment, there's observations, parents, processings, and requests. So specimens is kind of like what you might call a high-level entity, and then it would be in the context of other items. And you can see here that there's, accession number, there's collected date, there's the collector, there's the device. There's a lot of information about specimen collections. Encounters. So encounters remind me of appointments, but I think there's just a little bit more to it. So let's just look up a patient encounter here. You can see there's a lot going on here. So this is a patient encounter, and it's related to a specific appointment. So this is an appointment for this patient. This is the subject, which is the patient. And there's an origin, and there's a destination, and there's on behalf of, and there's even a context. So the idea is that, and this is, very, very highly customized for the healthcare industry, so it'll mean much, much more to somebody who's in the healthcare industry than it would be to me specifically. But you can see here that this establishes the ability to relate a lot of information to something that happened with this patient at this originating center, perhaps to another center. There's the destination if it's needed, and it's a pre-admission. So it could be sort of a referral from a surgery center to maybe the emergency room, not sure, whatever it could be, and then with a specific appointment in mind. And then, of course, you can see here readmission, patient encounter, class, and admit source. So this is sort of like an admission, but it doesn't have to be. It could be some other kind of encounter, Episode of care. We can take a look at this. A lot of these sort of esoteric terminologies come from the healthcare industry, but if we look at the data, we can try to like piece it together and understand. So an episode of care is one of these very high level entities that has a lot of related information to it. So you can see here, there's a great deal of information that an episode of care is related to. So you can see here encounters and medical requests and observations and referral requests, all kinds of things like that, you know. So it's very, very a high level it's a way to relate a specific episode to a specific patient, right? Medication request. So this is a medication request, and if we open it up, we can see that it's a medication request for a particular patient, and there's a specific medication, and there's a reference, and then we would click, you know, this is a specific medication reference that we would open up and take a look at as well. That's a medication response, and I don't know what this is. This is active medication administration. I have a feeling this is another high-level one. There's no data in the system here, but this is probably a high-level one related to medication requests that we would find, you know. And as you can see from medication requests, we've got a practitioner, we've got, you know, what it is that they're requesting, and we've got the category and context type. A lot of this data isn't filled out. Again, this is just a sort of a test environment. So what they don't have on here, which I'm surprised they don't, is they don't have the patient. But we know for a fact, because we opened one up, that this is related to a patient. So we've got the practitioner, we've got the patient on it, and we've got the actual medication. So it's a request. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. What I think we could look at is we can look at a couple of things like some appointments and maybe some referrals. So if I open up, let's just go ahead and open up one of these patients. And so we already looked at some of these. Here's a patient interaction, which could be all kinds of different things. So one of them could be an appointment, one of them could be a task or something like that. This is just a general interaction. If I click related, I can see there's a lot of stuff that's related. Let's just take a look at some of these, say, for instance, activities here, see what types of activities were there. Okay, here's a task and appointment. So let's open up an appointment and take a look at what a typical appointment might look like. So here's an appointment. This is regarding Craig, which is the patient. And there's the practitioner over here, which is you know, the provider. And here's the location, right? And there's the patient. This is accepted. There's a little bit of instructions for the patient. And again, this app is, of course, mobile. So if this record was created and the patient was using the app, then they would see this sort of appointment, they'd find this information. This could be synchronized with Outlook and so forth and show up on a calendar. Here's the start time and end time, administration, priority, and so forth. So that's an appointment. As you might imagine, there are probably many different kinds of appointments, but one of the things that you can do, and I can't show it to you because this is read-only, but you could convert this particular activity to a case. And I will show case management in another context on another video. But the idea is that a case is a series of stages and steps, if you want to do it that way, if you want to configure the system that way, that helps you, you know, sort of provide care to a specific patient. This is just one activity for a particular case, but you could start out with this case. In other words, you could start out with this appointment and then just convert it to a case. That's fundamentally the idea. So I'll come back. Let's see. I thought I saw a referral, some kind of referral. So let me see if I can find that. I think it was a referral request, I believe. So probably referral requests are in the context of something else. So I'm going to come down here and just try to find some laying around so we can take a look. So we've got a lot of referrals. But we have, let's just take a look. We've got definitions, reason codes, reason references, recipients, all kinds. Let's just look at referral requests because referrals are really important in healthcare management. So this is a typical referral request. So I'm not sure what the context would probably be one of the activities under a patient, but just take a look at a referral request because referrals are really important. So here's a cardiology referral request, and the subject is a patient Here's the request number. Here's the request number. The context is an episode of care, so you know that referral requests are related to episodes of care. We looked at those earlier down here, episodes of care. We've just got a lot of information here that's just very specific to, you've got occurrence date, occurrence end date, occurrence start. There's occurrence type, implying there could be more than one type of such thing. Here's a patient. Here's the requester, which is most likely the practitioner, and you can see here the requester agent. Now, what this does is it gives a lot of flexibility. The idea being that they categorize everything. So, in other words, this occurrence type is a date, but it could be a different occurrence type, and that might change the form. Same thing over here. This is a requester agent of practitioner, which implies that the requester is a practitioner, but I don't have access to change this, but the idea is that it could be maybe a different kind of requester agent, which might be, I don't know, an insurance company, who knows what, but then that person would be a different type of person implied in there. And here's requester on behalf of. This, you can't see it, but this would just be a lookup to another individual in the system, and then yet another lookup to someone else who is related in some way. Here's this cardiology referral request is specific to an appointment. So this could be the original appointment, and then as a action item from that original appointment, we have a cardiology referral request. So who's the initiating encounter? There was a patient encounter, which was this appointment. You can see here that the referral could go to a different practitioner for cardiology, and there's practitioner specialty cardiology. I don't know why this isn't all filled in, but there's a lot of data and a lot of information, but you get the idea. So this is like a full-blown referral request, which is very robust in the system. And I'm sure that we know that it is related to episodes of care, right? So we know that much. So if I went to episode of care and I opened one up, I'd probably find under there a referral request under the related. Remember, we looked at so many different kinds of things that were. So here we are, episode of care referral request related to that specific episode of care. There might not be any data in there, but I just wanted to show you the relationship. Okay, so it was a kind of a whirlwind tour here, but as you can see, this is a very robust system with respect to referrals and to healthcare, and I hope this helps if you're a healthcare professional that is interested in just having a sort of a system pre-built for you with a lot going on. Hope that helps. Have a great day.